90.9 FM.
Today can be the turning point in your life by making a simple decision.
Fundamental questions of navigation. Where am I? Where am I going? And how do I get there from here?
I invite the leaders of our planet to ask themselves these three questions before they make any crucial decisions.
But if you don't make decisions, you're going to stay right where you are.
We are all map makers.
We are in a time of transition.
If we're going to change, we have to change the direction that we're going.
Our planet needs leaders who know where they want to go.
When we change the direction we're going, then we want to make sure we're going in the right direction.
Leaders who can see the big picture.
Because if we're not, we're going to either go backwards or we're going to stay where we are.
Recognizing the psychological and the spiritual shifts and changes that need to be made, often from the inside to the outside.
To be able to shape your future, you have to be willing and able to change your paradigm.
Complex journeys require navigation. The path to the truth is one such journey. This is your GPS. Hairstyling services provided by J.D. Edwards Salon and Spa, Palmdale Shopping Plaza, Madera Street.
Accessories provided by Chevette Williamson Jewelry. Standout jewelry for standout women.
Wardrobe provided by Bahari Bahamas. Visit shopbahari.com. Most likely be done with as of August. And now we see Cambridge Analytica on the ground. And for those who don't know what that means, I'm going to let you explain what they do. And we've been hearing now for a couple of months, herd immunity by summer. And there are some who are arguing that he is going to have an election before November, because if he wins, then that paves the road for ascension to the WTO. So many things to consider, C. Allen. So many things to consider. So, first of all, explain to the people who are Cambridge Analytica and why you think it's important that they are now on the ground in the Bahamas. And welcome back to the show.
Well, it isn't actually Cambridge Analytica. It's thank you for having me once again, Michelle. Mm-hmm. And it isn't actually Cambridge Analytica. It's just that because Cambridge Analytica is no longer existent.
Okay.
But it's actually principles that was associated with Cambridge Analytica. They've been associated with Brexit. They've been associated, I think, another country. I don't think it's Algeria or something of that sort.
So these are individuals, or have they formed another company, as far as you know?
Yes. I've been blank for a moment. Are you hearing me now? Or?
I can hear you. My question was, are they here as individuals, or have they formed another entity? I'm just trying to get a full picture of who these people really are and what they're doing.
The individuals, one of the major individuals is associated with the Cambridge Analytica, or the evolution of Cambridge Analytica into private entities now that advise governments around the world.
Okay. And so these individuals is here in the Bahamas.
Hold on a second.
There's some kind of delay going on with you, because we can hear you fine.
Okay. Let me until I change to another headset. These individuals are not from Cambridge Analytica, but they were associated with Cambridge Analytica.
Okay.
Their specialty, since their last boot with Cambridge Analytica, for people who don't understand, some of these individuals are not foreign to the Bahamas. They've been here pre-Cambridge Analytica. A lot of people may not even realize that Cambridge Analytica can essentially be claimed to came out of a UK firm that specialized in data.
Okay.
So around 2016, a billionaire that supported Donald Trump took this behavioral science company to combine it with a data company, and that's how Cambridge Analytica was born. For the bequest of the Donald Trump campaign. So this is actually an evolution of using data in politics that came out of Barack Obama. You know, a lot of people may not understand. Yeah, the what's the guy Romney that run against Barack Obama had a group of technologists. I think they call it a program OCA,
Okay.
and Barack Obama them formed their own digital company called, I think it's called Wahal or whatever, the one horn whale, which happens to be the only predator of AUKUS. And so as you know, Barack Obama digital team beat them. So technology became an integral part of how campaigns are run, and more essentially Barack Obama in the second term. So the people around the world began to take notice on how data and analytics and behavioral science is used to influence election. In fact, this is where the whole concept of Cambridge Analytica, recognizing they formed a company called Cambridge Analytica, and they brought together some of the better minds in this, which formed Cambridge Analytica, and they began to harvest data from various social media platforms, with Facebook being the most prominent, where they supposedly only have been able to utilize Facebook platform as opposed to retrieve and harvest the information from Facebook profiles. And so they had access to these millions and tens of millions of voters, and they knew all of their behavioral influences, what they like, what they don't like, their political positions, their position on gay rights, their position on religion. They know everything, and so they began to sort through and begin to do what's called targeted messaging. More, it's called micro targeting. So essentially, after Donald Trump went, that broke, and Facebook went on the defense and start basically reducing their API, the actual connection that the people used to use to connect to their network and utilize the data. And so what Facebook did was they began to separate people. And as Cambridge Analytica came under scrutiny from the US government and other countries around the world, what they did was they disbanded based on partly of a whistleblower. So as they disbanded, these individuals, taking their expertise, has went out and formed their own private consulting companies.
Okay.
They didn't disappear out of the firm. One of those companies is now in the Bahamas, and he was seen on Grand Bahama by myself with a permanent leadership of the FNM. And the only reason, when you look at the rate that this individual charges, and by the day, by the week, or by the month, or even as a consultancy, is for an election thing. If an election is sometimes 6 months away, a year away from now, you don't pay the type of money per day to have this individual sit around and drink coffee. You call them in when you're in the last moments of preparation or campaign for execution of what is called micro-targeting type election campaign. And so the mere fact that this individual didn't need to come here to walk around, to have access to the data that is necessary. So in essence, he's like myself when it comes to data. Sometimes you have to see firsthand the landscape to which you will be addressing. Some of the issues you can't be told about it. You must be able to see it, be immersed in it. Because when you are now in a campaign mode, you are in what is called a deep state of thought. And you can't be guessing at what you're doing. So you then have to become immersed. So my assumption is the fact that the individuals was here and all of the happenings that's around town could only mean that preparation is being made for an election. Now, I don't want people to understand that this is not the first time preparation has been made for an election. This, I think, would be the third time preparation has been made for an early election. One was to prevent an election of last November, where they were weighing the option, but because of internal politics, that was only a kill switch to prevent Hubert and Alexander Minnis from being removed. Then came the option as we moved into the newer year, which was that was a kill switch that ran from November till January of the year. For those of us that are politically inclined, we think that that's the time that Minnis should have pulled the switch, and at the same time we were moving towards the environment we're in. He could have went at that particular time and borrowed big and hard to cover the budget. Instead, during the mid-year budget debate of earlier this year, a marketed presentation was made concerning the sovereignty of our or the integrity of our economy as we're moving forward. And so, and now for those of us that watch, it was, and based on the movements again, that date was moved, that decision was made to delay, that we were moving towards an election before the secret is revealed of the financial category 6 hurricane that we were in, because essentially we knew that the budget was the midterm budget was make believe. Now we move forward to March of the year, when they, after the midterm budget, or right then, they came back and began to disclose this black hole, of financial black hole that we were in, failing to meet the requirements after borrowing billions of dollars to even meet our budget forecast of over $1 billion, shortfall of almost $1 billion shortfall. And that was only 9 months into the year. So the mere fact that then some preparation was being made, and we did a calculation again by movement on the ground. Again, these are what is called predictive analytics. Basically, it predicts a step an individual will take. It doesn't guarantee those steps, because the predictive analytics says, if this equal this, then you will have that. And so essentially, the closest we came to this equal this plus this plus this equal that was a May election day. Now, here's if people, and this is where people can base what they feel, what they think, what they believe, or what they was told. The media and the actions don't lie. We were now moving into this third COVID type environment, and the beginning of it was beginning to peak. And the House of Assembly was about to move into what is called a dead budget period, meaning that you must table the budget by a particular date, or you must have. So you are moving into this date where you add the date that you have to have the budget, which was the 23rd or 24th of May. I don't remember the exact date. But then if you want to have an election, you must have 3 to 4 weeks before that. So that moves us back into April. And so essentially we started to watch April with keen eyes, because we were predicting that there's no way that you can bring a budget considering the deficit that is there, plus the debt of the economy for almost 1 year. Flatline. There's no tourists was coming. 0 tourists was coming to this island, except for a few people who was maybe passing through in boats. So essentially we said that this budget is going to be a fiscal black hole, and the best way to hide from it is to actually call an early election and deal with it afterwards, as well as the mere fact that this fiscal black hole may require some hard decisions, with this cut back on spending and reduction of the civil service, which for any political party, it's a death nail from a political standpoint to say that you have to reduce your civil service by 20% or 30% or any amount of numbers, because they become the family. When you start talking with 42,000 people working for government in various incarnation of definitions, including government, what's called government corporations, telling somebody when you even get rid of 10% of them, it's as much as 10,000 families you affected. Mm-hmm. You can see the cascading effect from a political standpoint. But here's where, for those of us who was paying attention, during this period, the House of Assembly, almost the entire House of Assembly started showing up with COVID positive. In the middle of that COVID test, where they were in the process of suspending the House of Assembly, the Prime Minister ordered that extra seats be put into the House of Assembly. Now we remember now the House of Assembly was spread out, where they got rid of the gallery and they were allowing, so the MPs would not be close together. A limited amount of MPs were allowed in the upper chambers at the same time. Mm-hmm. But here it is that the House of Assembly is now full with COVID. Members are tested positive at home, etc., etc. The Prime Minister, on this particular date, which was the absolute deadline for him to call an election, he demanded extra seats be added to the upper house, meaning I want all of the members of parliament in the upper house on this particular date.
Right.
And that's when Holson Moultrie got wind of the fact that he had recommended that the House be suspended or until they deal with the COVID issue and treated and fumigated, that they were still going to have the meeting. And so Holson Moultrie had already given notification that he wouldn't be there. But he did show up that on this particular date, and he took control of the House of Assembly, chastised the prime minister, and without an opportunity for the prime minister or others to speak, as he walked out, he shut down the House of Assembly. So in essence, by shutting it down that date, that became the last date that the prime minister could have used to call an election and still meet the tabling of the budget after the election date. And so that basically moved him now into having to table a budget. So here comes this budget right now.
So hold on. So what you're saying is that was not his original plan, but because of what the Speaker of the House did, that sort of threw what you call it? Problem.
Yes, a wrench into it, knowingly or unknowingly. I don't think the speaker spoke on the adding the extra thing. I didn't think that no one gave it any type of thought as why would you before COVID was in the House of Assembly, you demanded that you separate it. But
so you don't think that move was a chess move on the part of the speaker? You think he just did that because he was annoyed?
I think so, because the prime minister didn't give. If you want not outside looking at the data analytics, basically trying to predict what's next, what's now, and what's next, he did it. Now, if the speaker did understand what was happening, it's a brilliant move of checkmating the prime minister,
right?
Because essentially he shut it down, and you had to think, the prime minister himself could have still went downstairs and called the provost marshal, which happens to be the commissioner of police. But then it would have seemed as if though he was responding to Hudson Moultrie shutting him down that he ran and called an election. So the optics would not have been good for him once that happened, because it would be like, oh, Hudson Moultrie shut you down, and so you, like a crybaby, run downstairs and call a general election because he told you sit down. So
if Hudson Moultrie had stuck with his original decision to not show up that day, would have been able to put the deputy speaker in the seat and still carry out the mandate that they wanted to carry out?
Because essentially what the prime minister, competent authority, only wanted to do was to set up a grandstand explaining what was necessary and how he was going to do it and why he needs to get a fresh mandate. But now you just can't go downstairs and say, without coming to the people concerning for this great grand mandate, just go downstairs and says, election in 3 weeks, thank you guys, and vote for me. He needed a platform, an environment to create a message to build on. The message they're running with now is it's about your future. And so somehow it has to be an impetus to be like, boom, let's continue from when you speak or do something, and the best place to do it is from the House of Assembly. And so it kind of like shut the door at that particular time, which then moved us into what is called an economic crisis mode, because he then moved into, because now that is impossible to call a budget. I mean, he could have still went that day, as I think as maybe as late as the next day, and still call it, but then he would not have had this grand platform to which to launch a political campaign from. It would have been almost like an ad hoc, that type of thing. So the last thing you want to do seeking leadership is to believe that you're working ad hoc when everybody's accusing you of not knowing what you're doing as competent authority.
So what you're saying is that move by Harley Moultrie forced his hand to come and present this budget, which we all see right now is pretty much a black hole.
Absolutely. This is a Category 6 tsunami hurricane that is sitting there. For those of us that crunch numbers and the financial accountings around, they would straight up tell you this budget makes no sense except it being an election budget. Absolutely, it makes no economic sense. Don't mind. I hear them talk about this lady in the Caribbean that speaks to about some good points she made, but nobody in the other Caribbean did this or did that or whatever. Let me give an analogy to this. That's an analogy of a murder scene, and essentially what you do is let's say the spouse of another give the person some sleeping pills and some painkillers, and then they stab them to death, and then the newscaster comes on it and says, look how passionate the spouse was. The spouse, the person who died, felt no pain. They were asleep and, drug free. They don't tell you that, by the way, after the pain, after the comforting, they were starved to death or will be starved to death and be joke up, as we call it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they says, ignore the blood. Look how compassionate the spouse was. They are giving them painkillers. They provided water, a warm bath, all those things. And somebody said, but what about the debt? I don't pay attention to that. Listen what the reporter says. Where we are. We are in a crisis, an economic crisis. We are in a housing crisis. We are in a food crisis. We are in a health crisis. We are in a crisis of economic proportions, where families are living at below the poverty line. And we had no conversation on that. What we had was a selling of a budget that simply told us that the fact that no tourists came, that we were going to snap back. Mind you, the rest of the world is going through a third wave and some doing a fourth wave, that we was going to snap back to pre-2019 conditions. And in fact, they have marketed that they are now 127 million above previous thing. Now, here's the point, right? If in 2019 I took in $900 million, in 2020 I took in $50 million. So of course in 2021 I took in $200 million, which is less than the $900 million I normally take in, and I brag that I'm 125 million above what I took in last time. They didn't tell you that the normal is 900 million. Mm-hmm. They said, tell me we're not performing good. And they said, we're not a performing government and we're not on the way back for recovery. Well, you're still 80% away from where you need to be. And so you have these small marketed things and promises being made. And in fact, you have some things on the table, like crisis issues Grand Bahama as an example. Your show 2 days ago it made some excellent points. Mm-hmm. And I know, and I congratulate you on making the business news on that show.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right. But there's some other points in it that was made, some things that is not said unless you understand the data. Mm-hmm. Your guest said that RCL has been trying for 5 years to acquire the builder's harbor. But the builder harbor also is required some concessions to be given on the existing harbor. And the same thing is applied to the hotel. Now, what one must understand, your guest relationship to the Grand Bahama Port Authority and the supposed law firm that represents RCL.
Okay. Put a pin in that right there. It's 11:33. I was supposed to take a break 3 minutes ago. So before you go deep there, let's stick a pin right there. I want you to remember that thought.
Right.
And then we're going to take this break. And then on the other side of the break, we're going to let you finish the thought and then bring it into perspective as to what we're talking about today, these political chess games we see going on in this country. This is a chess game of... this is something else. If you watch and interpret and understand what is going on, all of the various parties and movements, and this is a serious chess game, y'all, of epic proportions. But you got to be woke to see what's going on. And who better to help us to unravel all of this but C. Alan Johnson. So we're going to talk about that point with Mr. Kerry Leonard on the other side of the break, but we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue with the show Political Chess Games here on GPS. Stay with us.
Excuse me. Good afternoon. Excuse me. Anybody have some American $1 please?
Are you sure you're going for any?
No, my mommy sent me to the cooler ice machine, but I only have Bahamian money. Oh, I'll tell your mommy she later. Just take Bahamian currency now, child.
You heard right. Cooler Ice Bahamas now accepts U.S. and Bahamian currency. So pull up to any of our locations and get your freshly bagged ice for as low as $3. A cooler ice machine is right around the corner. So visit us at Al Waki, Montague Road, Porter's Key Dock, Superwash locations, Nassau Street, Gibbs Corner, Wolf Road, Prince Charles Drive, Charles Sanders Highway, Soldier Road, Carmichael Road, and our 4 new locations: Superwash, Carmichael Road West, BPSU Building on Wolf Road, Rose Auto on Eastern South, and Joe Farrington Road, opposite Checkers Cafe. Cooler Ice Bahamas, fresh and ready whenever you are.
The freshest wave of glory to hit the Bahamas. This is the all-new Glory 93.9 FM, where God is glorified and the people of God edified.
For all your building needs, it's Carib Construction and Project Management on Gladstone Road. We build it all: schools, homes, hotels, and more, including structures requiring a Phase 3 electrical contractor. We also provide project management services. The first step towards your dream building begins at Carib Construction and Project Management. Call us at 376-1556 or 341-4466.
Executive Printers is your one-stop shop for all your branding and customization needs. Letterheads, envelopes, business cards, invoices, share and gift certificates, rubber stamps, vouchers, funeral programs, brochures, flyers, banners, and promotional items like mugs, water bottles, mouse pads, and key rings, all with personable service and great quality. No project is too small or too large. For great turnaround and competitive pricing, make an executive decision. Call us at 393-5011.
At Lee Air, safety is our #1 priority. Flying since 1996, we offer scheduled flights into Fresh Creek and Mangrove Key Andros and Great Harbor Key, Berry Island, twice daily, 7 days a week. Affordable charter services are also available to anywhere in the Bahamas and the Caribbean. Lee Air Charter Services. Call 225-3267, 702-7127, or 322-1317 for reservations.
Your body's immune system is under constant pressure from things like stress, lack of exercise, and toxins in the environment. It's crucial to be proactive and support your immune system with the nutrients it needs to function effectively. But it's often hard to get these nutrients from food alone. Introducing fast-acting Zinc Plus Immune Support by Longevity. Unlike zinc-only supplements, Zinc Plus Immune Support builds on the proven power of zinc and adds complementary nutrients to give your immune system extra support. Vitamin D helps balance the effects of zinc, while our proprietary blend of natural fruit and root extracts provides the extra help your immune system needs to work against daily stressors. And we've included Longevity's exclusive plant-derived minerals to give your body the minerals it needs, but can't get from food alone. And because Zinc Plus Immune Support is delivered in a great-tasting, sugar-free, berry-flavored lozenge, it encourages quicker absorption of all these nutrients into your body. Zinc Plus Immune Support. Zinc plus the extra support your body needs to promote a healthy immune system. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by Alive. Alive. Believe in best. And by Tropical Gyros. Not just good food, it's an experience.
Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM. I'm your host, Michelle Malcolm. My guest today is C. Alan Johnson. We are discussing political chess games. Talking about the political landscape in which we find ourselves, as we know that election is somewhere on the horizon, but some argue it's very close. Others say we got till next year, y'all need to relax. So C. Alan Johnson and I are talking about this political chess game that we see going on and what it means for us. Now, before we go to the thing, to your point that you started to make about Carrie Leonard, I want to read a couple of these comments. So Adrian Mott. Adrian says, I'm waiting for it to come up. Okay, this is a bit slow for me today. Is it up, Delton? Because it's frozen on my end. It's not up. Okay, we're having some issues with the internet speed here today. So I am unable to pull that up right now. See, Alan, let's move on to your point, and then once this starts to move again, I'll come back to that point.
Okay. This point is just to make is to close the point, because what I want people to understand is some promises has been made concerning the economic revitalization and rebuilding of Grand Bahama.
Mm-hmm.
Why I'm bringing up the point for that show, because it was an excellent show that talked about a number of issues facing Grand Bahama. But if people listen with an open mind, he was talking about the very essence of the control of Grand Bahama, which is the Grand Bahama Port Authority, Hutchison Whampoa, and the government of the Bahamas.
Right.
Yes, directs itself to Freeport, but by virtue of the harbor and the airport, it affects the entire economy of Grand Bahama, the decision made in regards to Freeport. And so when you have governments from previous administration that has made promise, remember now, he made reference to a bit of legislation that was passed by the previous administration that some says is good and some said is absolutely detrimental. It's a discussion that's open, and those of us on Grand Bahama have it often. So you have individuals in New Providence who may not understand the impact that Grand Bahama is so intricately involved in the economy of the Bahamas that it has on the entire economy.
Mm-hmm.
And so the dead of the beam and economy of Grand Bahama, you have to understand, if you are, before you got fired during COVID, you lost 30% of your income. And that's the Grand Bahama economy. And Grand Bahama economy is synergized with the Abago economy, which probably could be as much as another 20% of your economy, or even 15%. But in essence, if you even bring it down to combine at 40%, you cannot afford to have 40% of your economy disappear before COVID even arrives. And this is why when you begin to look at the numbers, you begin to become suspect, because Grand Bahama nor Abaco has been rebuilt. And now you promises has been made concerning the rebuild of Grand Bahama. And the linchpin that they keep coming back to has been the hotel and the harbor, because all the other terrific things they bring about it is there. Mr. Kerry Leonard, through association with the law firm that, if I'm not mistaken, may be the firm that represents RCL. And at minimum, they were the ones that were instrumental in bringing RCL from East Grand Bahama into Freeport. So I would venture, regardless of, even without this association, he has inside information concerning the whole relationship of RCL, Hutchison Whampoa, and the Grand Bahama Port Authority. Remembering, he was their in-house counsel for a number of years, and his current legal partnership, Mr. Frederick Smith, was counsel to and one of the greatest adversaries against the Port Authority. And so there's no, in the top 5 competent people on the Grand Bahama Port Authority, put in the top 10, Kerry Leonard, Maurice Glinton, Greg Moss, Frederick Smith, and very few others, including myself, actually have taken the time to know this document intimately, the pros and the cons. You notice I did not include any members of parliament in that, and I because they don't know this document. They don't know how it's functioned. They don't know what it does and what it works. So when you begin to come to the fact that the entire economic revitalization of Grand Bahama pre this F&M administration had directly ties to what RCL would do with this so-called harbor. And he went in to explain to you the number of years that, if you listen to him, the years that he explained that RCL was waiting for approval extended pre this administration. But this administration, entanglement is the new word, created an entanglement of the new harbor, of the new harbor to be built, as well as the hotel is now an entanglement in one big project, including our airport, which was dependent upon them getting the hotel, because you need airlift to get into Grand Bahama, and you need the other harbor, Freeport Harbor, as also a part of the pool for access to Grand Bahama and its economy. So, in essence, the only thing we have now on Grand Bahama is the existing harbor, which is in constructive control of Hutchison Whampoa. So I understand, even if you understand the first vision of Grand Bahama of being a transshipment port, that requires air, land, and water. And so if you were to, and the agreement of Hutchison coming into Grand Bahama was directly related to the three of those things. And so Hutchison essentially has now divested himself of the air, because the hotel don't count because they was forced into that, but they have not given up the harbor or control of the land. So anyone wanting to do any type of business, and the fact that Hutchison has a disassociation environment with the Grand Bahama Port Authority for a number of reasons, that's a whole other show on Grand Bahama, is now, they are now holding 2 of the 3 trump cards. And the government of the Bahamas had the opportunity, with them breaking the promise of the hotel and breaking the promise of the airport, to simply say, we want all the cards back. And they didn't. Now let's get back in context of the political games.
Yeah.
The economics of Grand Bahama requires something to happen. This is 5 seats. This is directly tied into the economy of the Bahamas, for the rebuilding of the economy. The promise has been made concerning this hotel being open and the harbor being built. So if you listen to someone like Mr. Kerry Leonard that has intimate knowledge, not just intimate knowledge, but he does data just like myself. For those of us in Grand Bahama, we don't depend on Grand Bahama for data, you know. We depend on the Bahamas for data, and we depend on the global marketplace for data. And if you listen to what he said, you could take from that without the harbor entering into ownership or arrangements with RCL, there will be no new harbor, or there will be no sale of this hotel. That's a fact. So now let's come back to New Providence on what happened to Mr. Toby Smith. RCL took an economic beating during this COVID environment. They bled billions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
They need revenue. They have a projected growth building on top of the pre-2019 that they anticipated that they would grow by some 3 million or 4 million and bring it up to 10 million to the Bahamas, and hence the new harbor. Now that you have 3 million or more customers, 50% or more of those customers, you need to create some new revenue stream, because looking at the economic landscape of the Caribbean and other places you go, there will not be normalcy for quite some time. Well, that puts their project on Paradise Island as a priority, because it becomes a cash cow. You already brought them in an all-inclusive hotel. They want to experience the beach. So transporting 1 million or 2 million people across to the Paradise Island beach for an additional fee can add hundreds of millions to your bottom line.
Mm.
So hence, they went on that side, bought up the real estate, the housing real estate on that side, and coerced our government into giving them the part of the harbor for which the government already committed to Toby Smith for the rebuilding of the lighthouse. Why? Because the government is desperate for this hotel to close or something to happen on Grand Bahama. So you give them a lot, hoping they give you a little back.
Wow.
Called taking the hotel off your hand, so you can have the appearance of it being sold for what? For political purposes. It's a political chess move in cutting Toby Smith's throat, because it's directly related. And so the problem is, remember now, I want people to remember, this happened to us before.
Mm.
There's across the street from the Prime Minister's office, I think it's called Goldwyn or something of that sort.
Mm-hmm.
They came to Grand Bahama and they wanted their property across from the Prime Minister's office, and they wouldn't approve it. And they pretended like they wanted to get this hotel on the condition you give us approval for that. And as soon as they got approval for that, we saw the newspaper, they said, "What hotel ain't worth $1?" That's what they said.
Mm-hmm.
And they moved because they already got what they wanted in New Providence. Investors learn from other investors. Remember the most favorite condition on the Atlantis? So they simply say, well, this is their behavior, and this is how they respond. So they come back with the same routine.
And the investors come to the table playing their own chess games.
Absolutely. And again, it goes. This is all part of the political chess move with Crystal Cruises. I want people to understand it costs $2,000 for the 7 days on Crystal Cruises. I want you to now take 600 people on Crystal Cruises and times it by $2,000. you end up at $1.2 million for this trip. That's what Crystal Cruises is making for this trip. Then ask yourself, if Crystal Cruises, who have the people as a captive audience on the cruise ship, is only making $1.2 million, then how does the messaging that we're getting in the public domain that behemoths will be able to make millions of dollars? Hold on a second now. The people that took all the money from the people has only made 1.2. They're gonna buy trinkets from you, drinks and conch salad and rent your beach chairs, whatever, and you're gonna make millions of dollars from 600 people. What type of money
they say how long it was gonna take for the millions? Maybe that's the part we miss.
And that's why we keep allowing it. They have behemoths can't count, you know. They understand when you have a person so broke, they get impressed by numbers. This is why when they come to town and for the price of what we call furnishing a hotel in the US, they'll come to you and says, and we are spending $20 million. And behemoths go, yo, 20 million. Oh, whatever. You go, well, that's what they paid to refurbish the dining room on their boat. And so, but we look at it as some major accomplishment because they've had us so broke so long, any amount of numbers sound ridiculous. This is why when they come to say, and we are on the crossroad in the front of C.V. Bell School is $1.2 million. And they go, oh, that must be a good crosswalk. Look at that number. And they play us with numbers because we don't have the data of relativity to say it's relative based on the investment. And so they've been marketing to us a facade as if though the economy is turning around, but yet 50% or more of 80%, actually, if you go by the Chimas and other people, of businesses has shut down or has no intention of reopening. So where's the new jobs coming from? So essentially, we are now in this black hole, and this is why one would have to assume that we came in and pretended. Remind you, we've been shut down for a whole year, deficit out the window. So we came back with a budget to say everything is back to normal. So we're going to make the same $3 billion we need. Mind you, our expense for the COVID, according to the Prime Minister, is in the hundreds of millions of dollars. If we're still in the COVID lockdown environment, so that means we still have hundreds of millions in additional to our budget that we need, but yet we came up with the same type of budget, and yet we did not have the sinkhole of a deficit. They simply say deficit will be about the same as last year. Well, when we predicted the deficit of last year of $1.2 billion, we didn't know about COVID. COVID shut us down to zero for the whole period. So how did they then still have an input of the $3 billion that was needed? Notice that we had zero tourists, zero everything, zero practically spending. Everybody is out of work, but they still made, according to them, almost $2 billion in revenue. It's a miracle, okay? And so you have to then believe that this budget is nothing but smoke and mirrors to get them to a point. Here's the problem, though. It can't be a one-year point. Because if the economy doesn't return to normal, and you must then subsidize our economy that we spend $250 million a year to exist, then you must say, if we're borrowing $1 billion, that gives us about 4 months. And if you bring in whatever revenue we take in, then that can add another month or two at the most. But let's throw in there another aspect of this political game, and too often we forget. A promise was made and assured by the competent authority Prime Minister that there will be an F&M convention in November. In the early of the year, he promised them. He says, we will. And the chairman came and promised. The convention was something he's avoiding, but challenge to his leadership. Mm-hmm. So let's put it at the end of November for the deadline. So, but we have the 3 months or so of revenue. Mind you, that $1.2 billion must also cover shortage from the last year in bills they didn't pay. Mm. So we got about 4 to 5 months, best condition. Okay, add 5 months to the month from 7. So that means you have July, August, September, October, November. That means we have net zero. You're not going to have no election during the date. You don't want to come back in January and says, everything we told you was a fantasy, because that's the mid-year budget debate. So that means if you want to beat a convention, November 30th is your deadline to have a poll, because you don't want to go into the Christmas holiday. And especially after a Christmas holiday, if everybody is broke and the kids have no Christmas present and the MPs don't have no ham and turkey and other things to give out, they barely had any last year. Now, ask yourself the fact, and these all of these are narratives that build on top of each other. Members of Parliament and aspirants of other political parties has been on the campaign trail for at least 3 months or longer. Mm-hmm. The Prime Minister, after the budget debate, has decided to take a 3+ month vacation. Mind you, we have an unfinished agenda where probably 75% or maybe 90% of all the promises to be made, transparency, accountability, freedom of information, anti-corruption, term limits, fixed terms, recall, I could go on and on and on. None of those things have been met in any type of substantive way. You would now have supposedly 12 months left in the legislative agenda, and you take 3.5 months vacation. You must be out of your mind. And remember now, let's go back to another statement the Prime Minister said. Prime Minister said, and this is paraphrasing, I lost a year to this, and I've now lost a total of 3 years of my 4th term. What you all expect me to do in a year? What you expect me to do in a year? And I said to the Prime Minister, well, if you're saying that you couldn't do anything in 1 year, and you only got 1 year left, what could you do? Except smoke and mirrors and promise a future. It's about your future. And remember what he also said, the Prime Minister also said, I know I ain't got to you poor people, who was the whole basis of my campaign. You remember what he said in the church? I came from poor. I know you guys. I know your pain. I know the environment, and we have to fix the problem. Mm-hmm. But I'm sorry, for the last 4 years, I have not even considered you, but I promise you in the next 5 I will. And so it begins to lay a theme, and the mere fact is when we come back to the political games that we are playing. So here it is, you have the pressure of the economy. You have a looming deadline with a group of people who believe that they can win an election without you. Mm-hmm. November 30th or whatever the latest is on your neck. Then what choice do you have? The one thing I know Hubert Alexander Minnis do not want is history to say, as leader of Her Majesty Royal Opposition, he was removed by his peers, not the people. He doesn't want added to that resume, as Prime Minister of the Bahamas, he was removed by his peers.
Yeah,
that will never happen in history. So
would be making history for all the wrong reasons.
All the wrong reasons. He would go down. He remember. You'll have an economy that died and tanked under him, regardless of the reasons why you may have explained. They will remember losing their homes, their cars, their health, and their country practically under your watch. And then there'll be justification as the question of the Jeopardy question is, who was so incompetent that they were moved before they became Prime Minister and doing Prime Minister and responsible for the collapse of the economy? So the best thing for history to do, for the kindest thing for history to do for him, would have the people remove him. So he gets to say they made their decision. And then he gets to say, well, they thought the people could fix it and they didn't fix it and whatever. It becomes a deflection. So before he allowed his peers to remove him again, he would most likely choose to have the people remove him. The problem is COVID now, this new COVID, we had the 3, and now we had 3+. Because now, with all respect, when you hear the hospital coming out publicly and say our wards are full, we have no room in the inn, and Doctors Hospital, and we send them over there, and remember they're significantly smaller than us, so these 2 will soon be filled. We want you to get vaccinated. Come on down and get vaccinated. We don't have any left, but come on down and get vaccinated. So the question then becomes, if there is no apparent solution for our crisis, the only thing you could do is market a form of hope and move to a poll. And here's another problem. The emergency expires on the 23rd or 24th of August.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, without vaccination, the Delta variant in the country, more deadly, more quieter, and more contagious than anything else. You go to a school and you say to the school, this school is too dangerous to put 25, 30 students in a classroom. So you multiply the schools we have, and it don't add up to 200,000 voters. Well, you just said this school is too deadly to bring people together for a fraction of that, 50,000. But you'll say, I want an election and I want this COVID, everything else. Come on down and vote in this medical crisis that we're in. But the Minister of Health, nor the competent authority, is not saying any of this. But if you listen to the medical experts, including Dr. Sands, including, I haven't heard from Dr. Regis for a moment, but because she's not going to lie, she has an international reputation to protect. So it makes sense to keep her hidden. And what's the doctor name that's on vacation? I meant living in Washington, D.C. or somewhere, Maryland. And and you have Dr. Sands speaking, the physicians or whatever, the doctor in charge of physicians, the nurses speaking of incapable of the environment to work in. All of these things are playing, and no solution has been done. And 18 months into this pandemic, we have no medical strategy to resolve the crisis we're in, to exist without the emergency. So one have to assume that he wants the emergency to expire, because understand this, either on May, when they left away for their 3+ months vacation, either a deliberate act happened or a level of incompetence, which has been displayed before. So you can't say it's never been displayed, because they walked out and suspended Parliament till September 22nd or 23rd, whatever that Wednesday is, and they never made mention of, until they were questioned by the media on what happens on the 24th. Now, I want people to go back to our show on this station, the last one we did with Gibbs. We said that this will not go past August. He will simply let it expire.
Mm-hmm.
And we said it right on the show, that this cannot go because the economics will not allow it. And there's going to have to be a decision made that he may have to let some people die so the rest can live. And the economics is we are at an economic point. But the political leadership is looking for a way to go to an election. This is why he's literally bankrupting his members of parliament and his candidates, because they have to pay for all of these things. And no matter what they say, there's a concept of that if you're really a good candidate, people will follow you. But at the same time, you need water and food and all those different things to sustain them. You still have rent and cable and this, and all those things. So they're burning through capital, looking for an election date. So if Minnis, again, and his utterances, election isn't due till next year, which could be right up till August, none of these candidates are in any position to sustain it, unless, again, Minnis is a numbers man. I know, I've watched him, and he plays a numbers game. Unless Minnis has a strategy, having the public purse to come back later and support his candidate. Remember, at least 30 or more of his candidates are still in the employ of government. So they have a guaranteed income. It's the ones on the outside, especially the third parties. I put to you that the third parties can't make it past September. Most of them will disappear. And in fact, the DNA is on its way to doing that right now. And so essentially, because these other political parties, they will then, you'll see the candidates in a cowbell just for you to know they're outside your house, just because they can't sustain the spend, the burn through of the spend that is going through, which again, could be a political strategy. Bankrupt the parties, so even if you have to extend into New Year for an election and you could survive November, you will really have no opposition because they'll be hurt. The PLP then will have to go dig into some donors and spend. Because a lot of people may not understand. Just go $1,000 a day for 180 days. Now do that by 39 candidates and understand what your spend will be. You already know that the minute you do that, those figures, you know, all the third parties are gone. They disappear. So in essence, you then make it a mono fight. And again, I wouldn't put this, this could be another political strategy, because Menace may be a lousy leader, but he's one of the best politicians I've seen in this country for a long time.
He's very good. Either he is good or whoever he has advising him is a genius when it comes to being a politician.
Right. It's the leadership. It's that leadership gap. And because Menace lives in this state of paranoia, he can't even bring people around him who could probably help him, because he never know, they may flip on me. They may not do it the way they're supposed to, so I could look bad. And so he's lived in this state of paranoia for the last 8+ years of his leadership position. And so he's governed, and this is why COVID has given him an excellent opportunity to become an authoritarian, to basically a supposedly benevolent dictator, to basically protect his position. And this is the most comfort. And so when you go to the House of Assembly, listen to when he's talking about everything else. He goes, on the budget and whatever. Listen what he says. I say you can now stay until 12 o'clock. I say you now can come in groups of 10. Whenever he's supposed to be giving you some right that you had before, he took it away from you. He gets so enunciated, so done. But when he's talking about everything else, he's calm. And he just looks for the rest of the group and says, okay, guys, I expect beating on the desk. Another sidebar. I said an important part of the debate.
Wait, it's 12:06. We got to take a break. So let's stick a pin in that. Let's take this commercial break. And then we're going to talk about on the other side, in addition to the point that you were about to make, we're going to talk about this COVID-19 pandemic response plan or lack thereof, and what that is going to translate into as it relates to our political landscape. Because as you will see on the other side of the break, there are other territories who have a definitive plan as to what life will look like on the other side of the pandemic. Here in the Bahamas, not so much. And we have to question now, how are they going to reach this herd immunity they've been talking about? Because they've been telling people to come get the vaccine, but now they ain't got no vaccine to give them when they come. And so now we're starting to hear little inklings about natural immunity. This is so convoluted, it's crazy. But we're going to talk about all of that on the other side of the break. So stay with us. This is GPS. We'll be back after these words from our sponsors.
Located on Carmichael Road, Divine Designs Hair Boutique is a haven for women and men looking for professional beauty services. Our state-of-the-art and contemporary equipment creates a relaxing ambiance for you to enjoy while we cater to you. Need a hairstylist? We cater to all types and textures of hair for care and styling. We even have a barber on duty. Need a nail tech? Our technicians provide a range of nail services, including the latest trends. Unwind in one of our massage chairs while you get your pedicure. With our reasonable rates, friendly staff, and over 20 years of experience, you will be in great hands. Call us at 823-1669 or 698-1025 to schedule your appointment. Want to be pampered? Want to be slayed? Let Divine Designs make your day.
Looking for an extraordinary junior high school with caring, qualified staff and affordable tuition? Then come visit us at Elite School of Excellence, an affiliate of First Step Academy. ABECA-focused and Ministry of Education approved, we foster discipline, integrity, and wisdom while molding our students for success. Call us at 341-8846 or stop by First Step Academy Schools on Fire Trail and Soldy Roads for more information.
At the Shirley Street Plaza, you'll find Le Petit Gourmet, a small cafe that's big on flavor. Handcrafted delights made with love will not only please your palate, but feed your soul. Call us at 394-1251. 8 to 12 minutes is all it takes for a burglar to rob your home or business. Security Systems International provides professional and affordable solutions for both. Call 396-5000 for your customized quote. Gwen's Alterations provides professional services for all your tailoring needs, including face masks to keep you safe and in style. A stitch in time saves 9. So call us today at 393-6227.
Escape from the city life to Bacon Air Beach Resort in Pirateswell, Mayaguana. Relax in one of 16 air-conditioned rooms just steps away from the ocean. Enjoy scrumptious dishes in our waterfront dining room. Sip on a tropical cocktail, or if you must, stay connected with wireless internet. Nestled on one of the most beautiful beaches in the Bahamas, Bacon Air Beach Resort offers a unique vacation experience. For reservations, call 339-3726 or 463-0182.
Your body's immune system is under constant pressure from things like stress, lack of exercise, and toxins in the environment. It's crucial to be proactive and support your immune system with the nutrients it needs to function effectively. But it's often hard to get these nutrients from food alone. Introducing fast-acting Zinc Plus Immune Support by Longevity. Unlike zinc-only supplements, Zinc Plus Immune Support builds on the proven power of zinc and adds complementary nutrients to give your immune system extra support. Vitamin D helps balance the effects of zinc, while our proprietary blend of natural fruit and root extracts provides the extra help your immune system needs to work against daily stressors. And we've included Longevity's exclusive plant-derived minerals to give your body the minerals it needs, but can't get from food alone. And because Zinc Plus Immune Support is delivered in a great-tasting, sugar-free, berry-flavored lozenge, it encourages quicker absorption of all these nutrients into your body. Zinc Plus Immune Support. Zinc plus the extra support your body needs to promote a healthy immune system. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by Easy Car Sales, home of the electric vehicle. Visit easy242.com and free yourself from gas. Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM. I'm your host, Michelle Malcolm. My guest today is C. Alan Johnson. We are talking political chess moves, looking at the political landscape and all of the maneuverings that seems to be going on, whether it be from the competent authority / prime minister, or the official opposition, or all of the various third parties, or the independent candidates. There's so much going on in this chess game that if you are not paying attention, you could miss a lot of subtle moves that are happening. At the end of the day, though, the question will be, who will be the one standing and saying checkmate? Because I dare say that whoever that is, the future of our country, the future of our nation is on the balance. And we have to ensure that we as a collective, we as those who will make the determination as to who will govern this party moving forward, we make some educated, informed decisions, that we do away with the emotions that often get involved and the tribalism that has really dictated what our political landscape has looked like for the past several decades. And we make some sobering decisions based on the future of this nation, because it really will boil down to that. I think this election is perhaps the most important election that this country has faced since its inception. And I don't know if Seattle agrees or disagrees with that. But this is a moment in time for the Bahamas. And whichever direction we decide to go in is going to impact us significantly going forward as it relates to the future of our nation. So prior to the break, we were talking about the pandemic, the response to the pandemic. For a long time we were hearing, we have to get back to herd immunity because we have to open the country again and we got to get the tourists to come back. So we need herd immunity. So take the vaccine, take the vaccine, take the vaccine, take the vaccine. I'll throw you a party. You can go inside and eat in restaurants, all this stuff. Take the vaccine. Now we're hearing we don't have sufficient vaccines in the country. And they in the process right now, I know this government like to borrow, but boy, we borrowing vaccine now.
Yeah,
right?
And
the vaccine would be paid for in each yet. And so now we're running out of vaccine. So you telling people come get your vaccine, but then when they reach you ain't got no vaccine to give them. Right? So now we're starting to hear a little sip here and there. Between the vaccinated and the natural immunity. We're going to reach.
They rejected that before.
They rejected that in the beginning. You had to have this vaccine. Now all of a sudden, natural immunity is just as good, which we knew all along, right? But now all of a sudden they flip the switch on that. They change the narrative on that. So now because they realize, okay, number one, we ain't got enough vaccine to give everybody. Number two, many people ain't on our run with this vaccine. So now we got to reach this herd immunity at all costs. And I dare say, not because of the economy, but because we got to go to an election. And absolutely. I can justify you having people in the thousands on the park in their red and yellow and green shade, rah, 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 shaking the pom-pom if COVID's still floating around and we don't have herd immunity. So now you got to figure out a way to fix this so that you can justify what you need to do to go to this next election. The problem is there doesn't seem to be a definitive plan. I was very shocked to hear weeks ago that they had stopped contact tracing for all intents and purposes. In the beginning of the fight against COVID, there was all this, talking about the plan and all this kind of stuff. I think that's when Del Regis was in charge and things seemed to be running well. And then she left it all. It's like all hell break loose. And then you didn't hear much apart from people saying things like, well, I came down with COVID and ain't nobody, called me to find out where I've been. And
everybody in my house got it.
Yeah. So then we eventually find out that they stopped contact tracing, I guess, because they wasn't paying the people who was doing the contact tracing, and eventually they must have said, hell with this.
They never had contact tracing. They never had it.
They never had it? Well, that's even worse. So the problem is, it is painfully obvious that there is no plan. Now, I'm going to play a clip. This is a clip of Boris Johnson from the UK detailing the plan that they are now putting in place as it relates to, as he put it, living with COVID. Let's go to that clip, please.
So, again, without preempting the decision on the 12th of July, let me set out today our 5-point plan for living with COVID in the hope that it will give families and businesses time to prepare. First, we will reinforce our vaccine wall, reducing the dose interval for under 40s from 12 weeks to 8, so that everyone over 18 should be double jabbed by the middle of September, in addition to our autumn program of booster vaccines for the most vulnerable. Second, we will change the basic tools that we have used to control human behavior. We'll move away from legal restrictions and allow people to make their own informed decisions about how to manage the virus. From step 4, we will remove all legal limits on the numbers meeting indoors and outdoors. We will allow all businesses to reopen, including nightclubs. We will lift the limit on named visitors to care homes and on numbers of people attending concerts, theatre and sports events. We will end the 1 meter plus rule on social distancing and the legal obligation to wear a face covering, although guidance will suggest where you might choose to do so, especially when cases are rising and where you come into contact with people you don't normally meet in enclosed spaces, such as obviously crowded public transport. It will no longer be necessary for government to instruct people to work from home, so employers will be able to start planning a safe return to the workplace. There will be no COVID certificate required as a condition of entry to any venue or event, although businesses and events can certainly make use of certification, and the NHS app gives you a COVID pass as one way to show your COVID status. Third, we will continue from step 4 to manage the virus with a test, trace and isolate system that is proportionate to the pandemic. you will have to self-isolate if you test positive or are told to do so by NHS Test and Trace. But we're looking to move to a different regime for fully vaccinated contacts of those testing positive, and also for children. And tomorrow, the Education Secretary will announce our plans to maintain key protections, but remove bubbles and contact isolation for pupils. Fourth, from step 4, we will maintain our tough border controls, including the red list, and recognizing the protection afforded by 2 doses of vaccine, we will work with the travel industry towards removing the need for fully vaccinated arrivals to isolate on return from an amber country, and the Transport Secretary will provide a further update later this week. Last, we will continue to monitor the data and retain contingency measures to help manage the virus during higher risk periods such as the winter. But we will place an emphasis on strengthened guidance and do everything possible to avoid reimposing restrictions with all the costs that they bring.
Okay, so you may agree or disagree with some of the proposals that that they are coming up with, but the bottom line is they have a plan. This is what is sorely lacking here in the Bahamas, a lack of a real plan. But yet we know that achieving this herd immunity is extremely important for the country to move forward, whether it be because of economic reasons, which is what they are touting, or because of political reasons, which I believe it is. Or maybe it's a combination of both. So without a clear plan, C. Allen, where does that leave us? And what do you believe these political entities will do moving forward towards the next election?
The number one point, Senator, we should be demanding an actionable, accountable, measurable plan from is the current competent authority. Mm-hmm. And we don't have one. And good or bad, we absolutely don't have any response. When you talk about the so-called natural immunity, mm-hmm. without testing, how can we know who has the natural immunity to give us an accurate count? Now remember, right, out of those tens of thousands of people to be vaccinated, we may have double vaccinated them, or triple vaccinated them, because if they had natural immunity and we went ahead and vaccinated them anyway, we basically did vaccines. I mean, if you had wasted, that we could have given to people. Yeah. An actual strategy would have been to basically know the status of all the humans in the country, all persons in the country, then isolate the most vulnerable without particular sicknesses that want to voluntarily come forward, the high blood pressure, hypertension, overweight, diabetes, whatever it is that we say is the most vulnerable, to allow those individuals to be protected because they would have less viability if they were to test COVID, not because of the dangers of COVID, but the effect that COVID in combination of their comorbidity would have on their body. Mm-hmm. And so all of these were things that we could have done over the last 18 months. But by using technology with 400,000 people, having a contact tracing, we would immediately know exactly who has been exposed. And this is where the whole concept of the constitutionality of this lockdown comes into play, because there is quarantine and then there's isolation. The word quarantine under the Health Emergency Act says that you lock away people who have been verified to have a communicable disease. Mm-hmm. And isolation is that you would mandate separation of those individuals who have been exposed to persons with those disease. But we've been locking down everybody, okay? And then on occasions, we've given them, on top of the lockdown, we've added isolation to them if we say you've been exposed to somebody else. Mm-hmm. Or positive, we've been putting you in isolation as opposed to quarantine, because quarantine takes you away from any type of public domain. We've had people who have had COVID who test positive. They basically send them home to other environment, to an environment where others have not tested positive, to tell them, take care of yourself and stay away from them, and don't use the same bathroom, don't breathe the same air in the same house that you're in. It's another A word I don't want to use because of the station.
Please.
I'm just simply saying is that we have had no actionable strategy since this COVID has begun. We have not utilized any technology. I know data, I see it, I know technology when it's used. They cannot present to me any technology, or to the public, any technology they've done for real contact tracing, because that collapsed upon itself. Remember, one of the principals from Alive had brought a copy of a contract tracing that he had bought from somebody else, and we have not heard from that. That has collapsed upon itself. And so we have what we have is a voluntary. They said, see, Alan, can you remember? I think I went, because I don't know when I caught COVID. I don't know whether it's a 1-day window, 3-day window, 4-day window, 5-day window. I don't know when the fact when I present myself for COVID, because we have no real contract tracing, am I really in day 1, or am I in day 13? And I went to all of these places in day 13 over the last week or 10 days or whatever. Yeah. So anybody claims you have contract tracing, say you're a liar.
Okay, we have a call on the line. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Good morning, Michelle. Good morning, Seattle. How you doing?
Afternoon. It's good.
Afternoon. Sorry. My goodness. Yeah. Yeah. Michelle, I'm glad to know that you're continuing basically the discussion from yesterday, because this really is a problem. There's something in the minds of everybody. My question to you both is, let's say, just hypothetically, if the PLP were to win the next election, I'm wondering if anything would change. You know, if the mandate will change, if this will continue. I mean, you're talking about the contact tracing, for example, which is extremely disorganized. I had a good friend of mine that took the PCR test and got his diagnosis was positive, of course. Most of the time, it usually is. He came by the house to stay with us for a couple of days, and no one came around to check up on him. Many people have had to go home, quarantine off their job, not even a call, let alone any kind of concern whatsoever, and so on and so forth. Until a few times, a few folks that could afford it will take the PCR test, get a positive, and then a day and a half later they take another test and they get a negative. You see, so it's causing mass confusion until the customer officer came on the live Facebook and he explained having the same situation happen to him. If you can afford to get 2 PCR tests, then you'll understand what it's all about. The people who can't afford another PCR test, they're getting sent home right away. No money is coming in. They have dependents, so it's really not making any sense. The thing about it is that no one's really saying anything this silly season about the emergency order continuing the world mandate, obviously, for everybody who signed up and whatnot. And it almost seems like a never-ending cycle if we're ever going to come out of this, because based on the information I'm getting from a number of people in the medical field, that BM is already taking the vaccine. My question is, in your belief or assumption, whether anything will change even after election?
All right.
That's my question.
Thank you so much for calling. See, Alan, how are you going to tackle that?
Yeah, the players will change, but the game will remain the same. And, because, again, where's the support structure? Let's say, for instance, we take 39 FNMs and dispose of all of their candidates and bring 39 other individuals. The question is, who does what? Who advises whatever? Yes, you have some influence of the MPs, but the support team remained the same. The ideology remained the same. And the message will be the same. You think now that all those doctors and nurses and all the advisors to the government will now say that we didn't believe what we believe, but now we with you on this, and this is the new position we take, and everything we told you for the last 18 months was wrong and influenced by political pressure or whatever. They're not. So they will try to maintain to some degree the storyline that they came out with. So there's going to be no rapid change except from the people. That's going to come from the demand of the people. And so it brings us back to the point that you said. This election is one of the most important in our history, not just for the choices we make, but for whatever we do beginning the day after the election. We must move into a period of accountability. We have allowed ourselves, or especially over the last 18 months, to become docile and quiet while we've been literally stripped of our constitutional rights with literally no end in sight. Because the Prime Minister could, if at his whim, the competent authority before August 24th, go back to the Governor General and request another 6-month extension. And I'll say to you that if he cannot see a clear election date, he will call the House of Assembly back for a special session and get that extension crying. Now, mind you, we are in the height of this pandemic with about 45 days left. And anyone who would tell you that this variant of COVID is going to be going away in 45 days is in a state of delusion. So there's only two things that we can have, or actually three. That within 45 days, he will bring in us a comprehensive strategy of how we will live with COVID.
Don't hold your breath waiting for that one.
Or he will call an election and if he wins, then try to figure out one, or let the other person come in and let them come up with their decision, or simply go back into another lockdown and keep us locked down for another 6 months while he try to find another pathway to an election. And so when you look at the fact that there's nothing on the ground to say that we have a comprehensive strategy for rebuilding the economy, for negating the impact of the housing crisis, definitely you notice, I want people another side thing for them to understand. You notice that he extended the feeding program until the end of September again. And it's been said that we don't have the resources, nor do we have the resources to continue with this so-called gifting to national NIB or continuation of paying people. And on top of that, you have the other things that we have done. So there's no money to maintain these things. So that means we will be hitting a wall. I want to lean to the fact that at the best opportunity, he would like a reset so that he'll have 5 years rather than 9 months. And that will come to an election. Or again, unless we have this marvelous strategy, bankrupt his opposition parties by maintaining an all alert concerning an election, which then gives him a stronger appeal if he could get into the party mindset of how Behemoth responds to electing leadership. Because we don't do thought, we do talk in our election of our leaders. And so, but we have to now begin to look at exactly what is going on. And I think this is the time and the opportunity for us, and we like to scream at Dr. Minnis, the competent authority and the Prime Minister, but you did not, only people in Kalani elected Dr. Minnis. You elected some members of parliament in your individual's constituency, more so for those that are sitting there, more so than the aspirants. But of both of them, you must begin to ask them. Ask them for individual answers as to what their input is going to be going forward. It cannot be that we are waiting on the competent authority to make the decision on how we're going to proceed, especially for those cabinet ministers who allow this facade to continue, that they are the collective competent authority and Minnis represents their opinion. Now, if you were part of the collective authority, called as competent authority, then why is it a number of your decisions and statements as cabinet ministers was directly in conflict before or after a position was taken by the competent authority? I mean, if you say collective, you made the decision, then collectively you should know what the decision is that has been made or was about to be made. And so I'm saying that this government is being governed by a one-man band from the hips. You know, just MSU makes stuff up as we go along. But for Behemoth, I'm telling you, the scariest thing is this facade is hiding the economic, this political games is hiding the economic storm that is at our borders. This economic storm is going to make Dorian and COVID seems like a walk in the park.
My God.
You know, and it's the reality that we have, and these are the questions that we have to be asked, because what we're doing is we have people playing political chess game, and with all due respect, right? If the opposition don't know the state of our economy, then they don't deserve to govern us, because they're basically saying they will be going in on day one with a total disconnect of our economic reality, and they have a plan to fix it. It says you can't manage what you cannot measure, and you cannot measure what you're incapable of acknowledging or seeing. So the question then we have to ask, why isn't the opposition speaking to it? That is also a political chess game. And that political chess game is very simple. I'll hold for the break.
Yeah, because we got to take a break. Remember, that's the point that we're picking up with. The political chess game being played by the opposition. I'm dying to hear that. All right, y'all. Wow, time is flying in this show. We're going to take our last break of the show. And then when we come back, we're going to continue the conversation on political chess games with my guest today, C. Alan Johnson. This is GBS. Stay with us.
The freshest wave of glory to hit the Bahamas. This is the all-new Glory 93.9 FM, where God is glorified and the people of God edified.
Ocean blue is the best in seafood, hey, hey. Fresh out the water and affordable too, yeah. We got fish, conch, lobster, shrimp, everything you want. Ocean blue got it. Ocean blue, friendly and clean, best service you ever seen. Ocean blue is the best in seafood, hey. Fresh out the water and affordable too, hey. Ocean blue seafood, we are here for you. Ocean blue seafood, no one else will do. Ocean Blue Seafood, located on Burnett Road. Contact us at 393-2160.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 Hyperimmune Egg Powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
One of the things I love about the Mailboat is their relationship with Bahamas Air. I can earn travel points on my international freight and redeem them when I fly.
For me, online shopping is easy, with Mailboat's U.S. addresses and regular freight delivery to Nassau. Plus, I can always prepay customs and freight, and they always notify me when my package arrives.
Yeah, a lot of people think the Mailboat is just for shipping, but they also offer a safe and secure storage facility at affordable rates, all in a central, convenient location.
We also offer passenger service into Freeport multiple times per week with a seating capacity of over 450 persons. With family movies on large screens, one hot meal included, and onboard lounge for snacks and soft drinks. We're the Mailboat, bridging people, products, and places.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Longevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by Tiki Bikini Hut at Junkanoo Beach. Great food, cool tropical drinks, and family fun in the sun. And by BMP Liquidators, high quality furniture and home goods at very reasonable prices. And we are back. Welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Glory 93.9 FM. I'm your host, Michelle Malcolm. My guest today is C. Alan Johnson. And C. Alan Johnson and I are talking about political chess moves. What is happening on the political landscape on the eve of elections. We know that we are months away from an election. How many months? Depends on who you ask. I've been hearing October is the month. But then I also heard that June was the month. So it really depends on who you talk to as to when people believe that this election is going to happen. But it seems that we know for sure we're closer than we have ever been. The question is, will he pull the trigger early, or will he drag this out and use up every single day that he has at his disposal? So let me read a couple of comments, and then we'll go to the point that you started to make, C. Alan, about the opposition and their role in this chess game. So Tracy says, what also makes this crazy is the fact that the vaccine is said to only protect for 1 year or less. So making the vaccine the way out, then what happens next year? Do we continue this circle of crazy? Anton says, the young people of the nation will decide this election. They are registering, but the question is, will they come out in large numbers to vote for these political parties to win? There must be a get out the vote campaign focused on the youth. And again, Jamila says, come on now, it's freezing up on me again. It says, the lies of the Bahamian people is no game. All right, C. Alan. So prior to the break, you started to talk about the opposition moves that they're making in this political chess game. Boy, we have a caller. Let's take the call, and then we'll go to that point. All right, caller, welcome to GPS.
Hi, Michelle.
Hello.
And hi to your guest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Everything cool, brother. Michelle, you know, this amazing show. This is what I want to say today, and I'm going to be brief because I really want to get back to hearing what this great Bahamian, this awesome, amazing Bahamian is saying and have been saying for so many years. It's a shame. But anyway, this is what I want to say to my government. A feast is prepared for laughter. And this is what I want to say to the leader and those who will be running in the opposition. And wine makes life merry. This is what I want to say to the Bahamian people. When these two parties come to us, this is going to be our words. But money is the answer for everything. You know, people keep quoting that. playing with us. We're the owners. We're the successors of these rock and islands and keys. You know how it go. The next verse say, do not curse the king, even in your thoughts, or curse the rich, even in your bedroom. For a bird of the air may carry your words, and a winged creature may report your speech. That's all I'm going to say today. My brother, let's get back to the show. Thank you, Michelle. Hey, and let's support this show. Big time.
Thanks for calling, Amos. I'm not sure.
No, I understand the context of the religious thing, but guess what? A boy don't have to carry no message. He can watch the show later tonight.
Yeah, we ain't relying on the boy to take the message.
In fact, I'll send him the link when I get off.
You have to trust me.
Oh, wow. Get back to the opposition.
Yes, please.
Went at me, and they keep asking me this so-called when does minutes have? Let me just quickly in 60 seconds say everybody think it's 5 years from the election. It's not. Mm-hmm. It is 5 years. The prime minister has the option of setting a date for an election up to 1 day before the 5th anniversary or the 5th anniversary of the first sitting of the House of Assembly after the election. That didn't occur until the 23rd or 24th or 22nd of May, even though the election happened on May 10th. Mm-hmm. So the 5-year clock began at the first sitting of Parliament. Let's put it as the 23rd of May. So that clock began, that's when the clock began. So he has until the 23rd of May to set the date for the election. It doesn't have to be before then. So it can be up to 90 days away. So on the 22nd of May or 23rd of May of 2022, he can set the election for as late as August 22 of 2022. I just want people to understand it. Don't confuse that he has until May. He has until August.
Why would it be unwise for him to stretch this out that long?
Technically, he has to go into another budget. If this is smoke and mirrors, that one's going to just be pure mirror so you can look at yourself, because he won't have any smoke left to cover anything. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just wanting to understand. I can tell you why it won't make sense to go to another budget. But again, so you could bet that your election will be before May 10th of next year. If ands and buts. You could bet money on that, unless what they say, whom the God first destroyed before they drive mad. So unless he goes mad and continue on with this thing. But legally, in case an economic miracle happens and the economy is booming and everybody has 3 jobs and 2 cars and 1.5 houses, he has until August to call it. And if he doesn't call it by that last day, the Governor General then moves in to set the date, which will still be after May 23rd. The Governor General can set it from as little as 21 days to 90 days. Just for people to believe that that's not an absolute. But politically astuteness says, even if this is pushed into next year, he will call it before the next budget debate. So
let's get to the opposition now and what moves.
Yes, the opposition. Again, as I said, there's must be total ignorance, right? Or a form of intellectual deceit that's going on as part of a political strategy. Also, the third parties, 99.9% of them, of the other alternative parties instead of the third, I would say to you, it's the arrogance of ignorance that's going on. Because if they knew about these things, or they have joined the official opposition in their political strategy, they're now following the leader as opposed to becoming leaders. And here's why. If you have this economic hole coming in, you have to understand that the opposition party is the control of the Public Accounts Committee that gives account for all finances. And they have some astute economists and accountants and other things as part of their team. So they must be following it just like I am. And they must know there's a $4 to $5 billion debt trap. Remember now, if no money comes into the Treasury, we have yet to table or put on our national debt a $4 to $5 billion. When we talk about this national debt, We don't include the pension and the $4 billion liability for the pension and that yet, and some other liabilities we have not included on that. Because what we do is we have been comfortable with being able to meet the pension payment on a monthly basis from the central fund. But the minute we can't meet that pension payment, that $4 to $5 billion or more national debt comes and falls on the table with the other debt. So we have some hidden debt all over this country that we have no idea that's about to come due when our economy can't sustain it. Now, remember now, a lot of these people who are now running again serve as cabinet ministers over the last 25 years. They know the true state of our economy. So the mere fact that they know how the game is played. C. Allen Johnson is leader of opposition. This is my position telling me the truth. The F&M knows that there's a budget deficit there, and they have no choice, but they have to fire 25% of you, and it's maybe as much as 50% of you over the next year. I want you to know that the economy is not going to reopen, and half of you we're going to be losing your home, your car is going to be repoed, and for those of you in private school, I suggest you get down to the public school as soon as possible so before the lines get too long. And I want you to know that that there's going to be a health crisis, and some of you have to die because we only got about 75 ventilators, and we expect to see 100 of you per day. So we're going to have to decide, we may have to come up with a lottery system or just go on which is best, who's closest to the relatives that we know. That's the truth. But if you go on the podium and you say that, election night, you can be hearing no vote. No, right. They're going to say, well, you're saying there's no choice but to fire the people. So when you get there, you're going to be firing me too. Now, a political chess move is that if I'm leading in the polls to bring me into office, I remain silent because you say people like C. Allen Johnson and others is going to tell them. I'm not going to say yay or nay because the people then may ask me, are you going to fire me too? So you just be quiet and let the people assume they're going to do it. Then you come into office. So as you coming into office, you step over the black hole. And once you're there, you turn around to the people and says, oh my goodness. We didn't know this God. Yes, look what the people left. Look at here. We didn't want to fire you, but the guy left us no choice. Yeah. They left us no choice. We didn't know we had to fire you until we reached. We didn't know that we didn't have enough money for medical care. Oh, pensioners, I'm sorry to let you know, it's going to be grits and butter because we didn't know that we would not be able to meet the pension fund. Yeah. And our guys, the blackouts, because we owe the power company, we can't pay them. We're going to make candles duty free, So
let me ask you something. Say duty free candles. The emergence of all of these alternative parties. I can call them third because we got too many to be third. If you learn math, after 3 is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we got a lot more than just one more party apart from the two major ones. So you've got all of these alternative options. People are calling for unity, for them to come together as one force. But, I said to somebody the other day, God must be schizophrenic because I hear so much from people saying, God, tell them they can be prime minister.
Actually, every single person who have led the alternative party, except for the PLP and the F&M, have directly said they were inspired by God. And I hope we don't go to that.
God's schizophrenic and we know he ain't, or they just ain't here right. But
I hope we don't follow that part of the Bible where we stone you to death.
But the bottom line is, you got all these alternative parties, right? Who of the two major parties will benefit most from that?
Technically, this is where the F&M needs the third parties to remain in, and the PLP needs the third parties to go away. Here's what I mean. And this is why you could almost be concerned that the some F&M supporters may be supporting some of these third parties. Because if there's only two choices on the table, okay, eggs or potatoes, and you have to choose, you're going to choose one. But if you give them a third choice, but even though that choice is limited, and I know I'm egg and they don't want egg, I don't want them choosing potatoes. So I much rather them have a third choice, which then gives me a stronger ability. If I can maintain a particular baseline of individuals, I can win. Remember, the Bahamas, the politics in the Bahamas is first across the coast. It's 50% or whatever proportion plus one. So if it's a three-way race, it is 33% plus one person or whatever. So you only need to win by one vote. So the more people diluting those who oppose me, because remember, if I'm the FNM and anybody who's going to vote for this alternative party means they oppose me, I would much rather have them to have some other choice to vote against me.
So you're diluting the vote, in other words.
The opportunity for the opposition to win. The opposition wants them gone because essentially the opposition is cut in two ways. If they don't like our leadership, then they will probably vote for the other people out of complacency. So it's kind of like it's a balancing act that both parties may need a third party force, but the government party itself needs them more so than the opposition does. And I would say, looking at what's here and the condition, I would say the opposition need the third parties to go away for their strength to come, because those individuals are basically decide anything but minutes. Remember how we got here?
Anything but Christie.
Anything but Christie. Now we are here with anything but minutes, and this is why you have a strategy of the opposition is to remain quiet, because we on our way. All of us may not make it there, but we will have sufficient to become government. We on our way, and then we'll act surprised when we get there as to what we have to cut and slash some of you.
Absolute madness.
But of us, we have not taken an active role in knowing about governance and demanding answers in real time. We have become a complacent, subdued, submissive populace. And this is why it is important that more important than our voting is what we do the day after the election. This is where it comes back to the power of the people is and shall always be greater than the people in power. And so they are employees. And so if we collectively in our constituencies take possession of our members of parliament and hold them accountable, so whatever they say in parliament represents our views, we will then have control of parliament the way it should be. And then we can demand of them laws, policies, and programs instead of this handouts, jobs, and whatever else. Because once we know there's no jobs, they must now create. And then we'll move away from the foreign direct ownership, where we give away land in exchange for jobs. Give me your house and I'll make you and your wife the gardener and the maid, to one of foreign direct investment where money inflows so behemoths can own the economy. And rather than sitting around saying, this guy is going to bring billionaires here who's going to bring $10,000 each, and he's only going to take $2,000. He's going to encourage them to spend the $8 with you. That's called a fantasy.
Final question. You have a lot of people who are watching this show, listening to the show, who may be undecided, because we know that there are those who are members of the tribe who aren't going to part with their colors no matter what. But I believe you have more people who are just disillusioned and really haven't decided one way or the other which way they're going to go. And then we have this huge pool of young people who are going to be voting, many for the first time. So, my question is, this has got to be confusing for the average voter, particularly the young voters.
Under 35, yes.
Yes.
The majority.
What should voters be looking for, asking of candidates when they come knocking on their door? Instead of being distracted by all of the political chess moves, and we only have 2 minutes left, so don't go on too long with this, but what do they need to be asking for, looking for, demanding from the persons who are offering themselves?
The first thing they need to do is become absolutely selfish. Make it about you. And then you begin to question them, because I see some alternative candidates in the independent column and some facade of independence, meaning they've taken on some blankets of a third party. If you begin to vote for individuals that can answer your questions and who's willing to become accountable to you, you can then begin to hold that power over them afterwards. But do not buy into the tribalism. You must look for individuals that you personally think you could go back and hold accountable, who will not put their loyalty to the party above yours. Look for people rather than parties or personalities, and you could actually be able to take back your country.
Ending with this comment from my pastor, Ellison Greenslade. Hey, Pastor Greenslade, says, how does that hold true with the results of the last election? The government lost even though we had a strong third-party DNA. Just answer that real quick and then we're out of here.
Because what we had is parties rather than solutions. Nobody talks to the future. They talk about the problem. They don't talk to solutions. And they're still not doing it. The problem is our absence has allowed this to happen. And I'm simply saying to you, this is a good opportunity for leadership in the country to galvanize the people and take our country back.
Wow. Where did the time go, C. Allen? Time done gone. I mean, I know you talk long, but even you weren't so bad today.
But it is what it is.
It is what it is. Listen, thank you as always, man. I can always rely on you to bring some good stuff. So thank you so much for being on the show today. It's 1 o'clock, guys. Thank you, C. Allen. We'll talk soon. It's 1 o'clock. Got to get out of here. Tomorrow is Friday, so you know what that means. TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. We're going to have an open line show where you're going to have an opportunity to speak your mind and get whatever's bothering you off your chest. Always exciting on a Friday. I'm Michelle Malcolm. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a good afternoon, everybody.